There have been two moments in my life when I was happiest. The first was the day I met Josh.
I'm Josh.
I'm Iris. And the second, the day I killed him.
Josh and Iris are two complete strangers who cross paths for the first time in a supermarket thanks to the magical intervention of Cupid. When they look at each other, they both feel a special spark, and thus begins this intriguing love story. Or at least, that's what we would think. Sometime later, Iris and Josh head to a cabin to enjoy a vacation with Josh's friends. However, Iris can't shake the feeling of being out of place, as if she isn't fully accepted in her boyfriend's circle, which leads her to think that she's being excluded. Upon arrival, they discover that what seemed like a simple cabin is actually an impressive mansion. After knocking on the door, they are greeted by the hostess, an old friend of Josh's, who turns out to be somewhat rude to Iris. Once inside the house, Iris meets Patrick and Ellie, a couple of really nice people with whom she quickly connects. She also meets the host, Sergey, a Russian tech entrepreneur who bought the most secluded house in the area to avoid annoying neighbors. However, Sergey comes off as rather unpleasant, especially in the way he looks at and talks to Iris. Tired of the situation, Iris decides to retreat to the guest room to unpack her things and take a shower. Upon arriving, she unpacks and finds a strange USB drive, the contents of which we will discover later. Later, Iris returns to join Josh's friends for a lovely dinner. During the evening, she hears the story of how Patrick and Ellie met, which reminds her of her own story with Josh. She expresses that when she met him, she felt like something broken inside her was repaired, and that's how she knew he was the love of her life. After dinner, Iris and Kat engage in a pleasant conversation where Iris learns that Kat is Sergey's mistress, who is married. Kat doesn't seem to mind the situation. In fact, she enjoys the life that Sergey's money provides her. The conversation flows with laughter and confessions, but the atmosphere shifts when Iris decides to play some music and everyone gets up to dance. As she moves to the rhythm of the music, Iris can't help but notice a spark of flirtation between her and Josh, which deeply unsettles her. The joy of the moment is overshadowed by that unsettling connection, leaving Iris with a knot in her stomach. The next morning, Josh asks Iris to give him a weather update. She responds with surprising accuracy, which strikes him as odd. Although she doesn't think much of it, at least for now, she tries to convince Josh to join her for some sunbathing, but he declines, insisting he'll go later. Finally, he tells her to go ahead just as Iris is leaving. Josh inserts a memory card into his phone, and suddenly, Iris finds a knife in her pocket. Her expression reveals that she doesn't remember putting it there. At that moment, Sergey appears and asks her to apply some sunscreen on him. Despite her discomfort, Iris agrees. However, Sergey starts to overstep, claiming it was all Kat's idea and insisting that Iris is made for this. The situation takes an unexpected turn when Iris appears before everyone covered in blood, explaining that she had to act in self-defense because Sergey tried to assault her. Confusion fills the air, and in an attempt to calm things down, Josh tells her, "Iris, go to sleep." As she is restrained, suggesting that it was all a misunderstanding and that the police need to be called, he administers some tranquilizers to Kat while heading off with Patrick to call the police to report what happened. At that moment, Josh decides to say goodbye to Iris and asks her to wake up. Still reeling from the situation, Iris listens as Josh reveals a shocking truth. She is actually a sex bot designed by a tech company to provide companionship and entertainment to people. Iris, in disbelief, refuses to accept what she's hearing. Josh explains that this is why she sounds like Alexa giving the weather and shows her that she can speak any language, even Spanish. Iris remembers how they met, and Josh explains that it's a preset memory from a selection he made at the beginning. He then confesses how their first encounter went, when the company delivered her in a box like a doll. After setting her up, he used her for the purpose she was created for, to please, serve, and be the perfect companion, always willing and without arguments. At that moment, Kat wakes up and calls Josh to talk to him alone. She questions why he hasn't turned off his plastic doll yet and mentions that everything has gone according to plan. When he returns, he finds that she has broken free, and in an unexpected twist, she escapes the cabin, taking with her the phone that contained the program controlling her. Meanwhile, the friends are talking. Josh confesses to Eli that he modified Iris's system, making her more aggressive and giving her self-defense functions. The real reason behind Serge's death is money, as Kat had been after the man's safe for months. We realize that P is Eli's personal robot. After stealing Josh's phone and learning his password, Iris seizes the opportunity to improve some parameters in her system, especially her intelligence. Once they ventured into the woods, the four friends decided to split up to search for Iris. Meanwhile, as she walked, she noticed Eli and Patrick were following her. Although she quickly hid, she couldn't help but overhear Patrick confessing to Eli that he had always known she was a robot. However, he had chosen to keep that secret because he felt their connection was genuine and that the memory of their first encounter was still magical for him. At that precise moment, the phone Iris was holding rang, revealing her hiding spot. Realizing this, she asked him to stop and shot at him. Although she missed, the three of them started running after her, and eventually, Iris managed to take him down. However, this led to a struggle in which he lost his life, all in front of Patrick's shocked gaze. Iris managed to reach the cabin and get into Josh's car. However, when she asked him to take her home, he didn't recognize her voice. Josh tried to get into the vehicle, but Iris, clever as ever, modified her voice module and tricked the system, escaping capture. Frustrated, Josh ran back to the house and used Serge's phone to stop the car, reporting a robbery. This left Iris trapped inside the vehicle. Josh called her, insisting that she come back, assuring her that everything would be fine. But Iris, now smarter than ever, replied that their paths were very different and that, despite considering him a great man, their relationship had come to an end. This infuriated Josh, who headed into the woods in search of Patrick. Once he found him, he factory reset him, becoming his main user and modifying his violence parameters to send him after Iris. Meanwhile, Iris encountered the local sheriff, who, noticing something strange was happening, began to question her. To avoid being discovered, she switched her language, but the sheriff, determined, ended up arresting her. In a fit of violence, she attacked the officer, taking his life and escaping with Iris. Kat, upon discovering the police officer's body in the trunk of the car, feels overwhelmed and decides to leave, arguing that with Serge's murder and the deaths of Eli and the officer, escaping the authorities would be impossible. This revelation surprises Josh, who had been driven to act by the belief that Serge was a mobster, when in reality he was just a bad boyfriend. Just as Kat is about to leave, Josh asks Patrick to stop her. Without hesitation, Patrick obeys the order and stabs Kat in the back. Night falls, and Josh decides to wake Iris to say goodbye in a tense conversation. Josh blames Iris for everything that has happened, but she interrupts, pointing out that he is only trying to hide his bitterness and weakness behind a veil of money. Upset by her words, Josh belittles Iris's intelligence and forces her to place her hand on a candle, trying to prove if she can really feel pain. He then calls Iris's manufacturing company, asking them to take her away, as he considers her a defective model. But before that happens, he orders Iris to destroy part of her head, which causes her to shut down. The company responsible for the robots arrives at the mansion, and Josh tries to explain the strange occurrences. However, the staff is skeptical and is about to leave, not before mentioning that they will check the footage, as there were no delicate components in Iris's head. This comment shatters Josh, who realizes that his plan has failed. In a desperate act, Patrick steps in front of the employee's vehicle and kills one of them. At that moment, Iris is rebooted and comes back to life. Upon arrival, she tells Patrick that he has been manipulated by Josh, urging them to remember the moments they shared. He manages to evoke that memory and faces his fate. Iris returned to the house with determination and confronted Josh. He tried to stop her using his phone, but she, with a defiant look, reminded him that her receiver components had been destroyed thanks to the help of a company employee who now knew the whole truth. Iris felt free, liberated from the obligation to obey someone like Josh, who had manipulated her to do what he was incapable of achieving himself. However, realizing that she retained all her memories intact, he tried to manipulate her to stop her. In a violent twist, he snatched the weapon from her and began to hit her. He asked her what her last words were. Iris, with an unsettling calm, replied, "Josh, sleep," and in a quick and decisive move, she stabbed him in the head, putting an end to the threat once and for all. The movie concludes with Iris driving a convertible, symbolizing her absolute freedom. Curiously, she crosses paths with another vehicle where she sees a girl identical to her, and that's how it ends.